I want to thank everyone that has supported us. It's been a very rough couple of months. Um, God, I just realized I haven't seen a mirror in a few hours. Hope there's no boogers in the middle of my forehead. Earlier, there was a walking stick on my back that was, like, not kidding, that long. Um, and in case you're wondering, the thing on the thumbnail is a caterpillar. There's now a chrysalis hanging on the screen outside here. Let me bring this a little closer. So, a few things happened this week that really just compelled me to feel like ranting. And I'm going to try not to waste any words and none of your time. Um, it's a privilege to have your ear and an honor. Uh, and I will do my best to treat it as such. Um, as my health has improved very, very rapidly, like yesterday was like the first day in a very long time that I have really felt clear and concise, and like my mental acuity is coming back. And along with that mental acuity and focus is a kind of rage, um, although it is tempered with age, which is not to say that it's softened exactly. Um, but I am acutely aware of trying to focus the energy uh, so that it's productive. And I think that one of the main catalysts that really got me thinking about all of this stuff that I'm going to talk about tonight was that I was considering like going back to the United States and what that would be like. And of course, there are other options, going into the jungle and living with the Warani. And I realized that I have no desire at all to integrate back into society. I mean, I never really was part of it. I'm literally like my childhood. I never was part of a social family unit, or I was alienated at school. So I mean, it's kind of ridiculous for me to say like integrate back into it. By that, I only mean moving back within the borders of the United States. Um, the artificiality of it, the artifice of it, the masks that people have to wear just to facilitate interaction with each other. I have no desire to be a part of it. Every day here in the Amazon, I am reminded of the intricacy, the beauty, the mystery of life and universe and creation. As I said in the beginning of the live stream, having this foot-long giant walking stick on my back today, and the caterpillar from the thumbnail, um, which the chrysalis actually, if you touch it, these two red horns come out, and that thing, I mean, you saw it on the thumbnail. It's absolutely crazy looking. It really looks like something from a Tool video, and I'm surrounded by that kind of thing every day, all day, every day, and so now. Um, I'm confronted with uh, not really the options, but just considering, like, do we really go into the jungle and just forget about returning to civilization? And I'm increasingly of the opinion that I may actually just disappear into the jungle forever. We'll get to why, but a really good illustration of that is the Warani people. And the way their only temporal orientation is to the present, and how they make they do not distinguish between physical reality and the spiritual plane. Um, and I I I've long been convinced that there is something in the structure, in the energy, in the something very abstract, something about our culture, exposure to it. The more you are entrenched within it, the deeper you are rooted into it, the more exposure you have to it, the more shallow and vapid and pointless and lost and disconnected from the universal mind, from the infinite beauty of creation and the mystery. And I think the fact that, the Warani people are so sensitized that there can be an animal, 500 feet up in a tree, I don't know how far away, and they can just blow a dart and hit it. And they're not, they're sensing things. I actually had a martial arts teacher named Master Kwan many, many years ago. They could walk into a room blindfolded, and he would sense, they would hang 5 objects, and he would just sense where they were and jump into the air and break them all kicks before he hit the ground again. He could do 5 objects. It'd be like an apple and a cinder block. And this also was his secret. He had never been integrated into modern society. He had been in silence in a Shaolin temple for 15 years without even speaking. And I think that isolation from the perturbations that are the energy of the matrix reality are what disconnect us from that dynamic force that is the universal consciousness and the universal mind. And so it's difficult to imagine after immersing myself in the Amazon rainforest and the culture here, to even consider trying to integrate back into that mess up there. But here's the thing, I do feel an obligation to try to make some kind of contribution to changing it. I've hated it my entire life, and I feel like this thing in me that always drove me to seek truth and to encourage other people to try to find more substance within themselves and connect with a higher purpose, and to figure out their true will, and to solve the crisis of purpose by means of connecting to this universal mind and this greater consciousness, which is absolutely efficacious in resolving crisis of purpose. I feel that the moment that I have been waiting my whole life to contribute to is here, and for me to just escape into the jungle for the rest of my life seems like a total cop-out and selfish, I guess, or but then let's talk about why it's so difficult to address this. One of the things that compelled the title and the description, really, you guys, for me, I was really happy with the description I wrote for this video. I hope you guys are ready. I don't know that I'll say anything that eloquent or poignant in the actual live stream. I'll try. But here's what really got me this week. I hate talking about politics. I hate politicians. I hate both parties. I hate the fact that telling the truth about one of those parties alienated like 3/4 of my viewers last year during the election. I think it's absolutely just pathetic that people are that brain dead, and I'm not going to mince words to be polite. I don't care at all anymore. I really don't. The reality is that if you're listening to me, you're probably already agreeing with me, or you wouldn't. You know what I mean? Like I know I'm preaching to the choir for the most part, but what I saw that really got me was video of Biden saying that he would be extremely hesitant to get a vaccination that was as untested as the COVID vaccination. And he was saying this because Donald Trump was encouraging people to get it. And Kamala Harris, around the same time, was asked if she would be getting the injection, and she would not commit. She said nothing, actually. She just kind of stared blankly, and then she said, "I'll say this," and I'm quoting exactly, "If Donald Trump suggested I should get it, I won't get it." And I remember from this period, the entire left screaming about how Donald Trump was evil because he was playing politics with people's lives. while the leaders of their party were doing exactly that, and the evidence is 100% incontrovertible, that is exactly what they were doing, 100%. And, you know, I'm not entirely pleased with how I have responded to all of this, because it has gotten to the point where it just seems so hopeless and so helpless that I would call people names, fuck-hearted zombies and all of this stuff, and what's crazy about it is that, when I would, if I would say anything about, questioning an untested vaccine, not vaccines in general, but just specifically this one, you know, um, people would call me an idiot and all, but if I gave it back to them, they would get so offended. It's just the craziest thing, and so I'm just trying to kind of illustrate the difficulty that we're confronting. Oh, too far. That's too bad, because I feel like I've been on a roll so far tonight. And it might also be the internet. I think it transmits probably garbled because we're on satellite. But okay, so what I was saying is that, if you think about what I just illustrated, trying to, like, that literally happened. Okay, I'm sure you guys all remember the left saying Donald Trump is evil because he was playing politics with people's lives in regards to the vaccine. Meanwhile, the Democrats and their base are all screaming this, while their leaders are playing politics with people's lives, if it's true that the vaccine saves lives. So the fact that if you point that out to people that are suffering from this severe cognitive dissonance and selective perception, they will just tune you out. How are we supposed to change anything? I mean, there were 7 viewers, and as soon as I started talking about that, I lost most of them. And this is why, like the other day when I made that live stream where I was saying, goodbye for now, it wasn't just that I'm so sick that I felt like I was going to die, which is a big part of it. But, my audience is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. We have like 2 people watching. And this is powerful stuff, Like, it's really difficult to maintain my determination. Very, very difficult to get people to listen. But I feel like that one illustration of how the entire left was angry, and that was the loudest thing that you heard, other than racism, which it is also true that if you actually just search for proof, video evidence of racist comments and racist legislation, Biden trumps Trump to pieces. There is no competition in terms of like who is actually, because I thought, we're supposed to measure people based on what they actually do and the effects that they have in the world, especially politicians. If you take a politician for what they say instead of what they do, I don't think you're very intelligent at all. And I think everyone knows that, which is why this whole situation has me so baffled. And we have to be able to make observations that are based on objective reality if we hope to have any meaningful effect in terms of the amelioration of the putrefaction of our culture. And it is inspiring to take, or maybe you can take some solace in the fact that the alchemical metaphors and allegories are actually descriptions of all processes. They all things are one thing doing one thing only, right? And so putrefaction precedes the materialization of the philosopher's stone. This is a sort of equivalent of saying that chaos precedes order, but it's something even deeper than that. So, that is one thing that I do find very encouraging, that we that all of this negativity, all of this degradation are like little seeds of darkness that will sprout into little plants that bear light. Um, it takes a tremendous amount of pressure to bear, to exert. Uh, it takes a tremendous amount of pressure to exert enough force on coal to create a diamond, right? So, um, I'm hoping that that's what we're seeing with this process. Uh, but there are some other elements, and I feel compelled to point this stuff out. Uh, Maybe a week ago, I came across an article by it's a French virologist. He's a Nobel Prize winning virologist. He's not a conspiracy theorist, and he's definitely a scientist. I think he's the leading guy in the field of virology in this century. He is to virology, the study of viruses, what Albert Einstein is to the study of physics, or Aleister Crowley was to the study of the occult, or Terence McKenna was to DMT. Um, and he has called mass vaccination programs the biggest medical error in human history. And he says that it will promote mutations of deadlier variants, and that that's actually where these variants are coming from. I'm not a virologist, but I have some basic understanding of how viruses work, and that's what I said right away. I mean, my argument has never been that vaccines are in and of themselves bad. Um, my problem is that I see things in terms of the universal mind and nature and the tendency of systems to achieve homeostasis when left to their own devices. Some billionaire a few weeks ago was talking about how businesses do not make a profit unless some unnatural force exerts itself upon them. It would be their natural tendency to break even. So, I mean, these universal laws act upon everything, and that includes populations. And so, I think that if we are to vaccinate against viruses, which I believe are the macrophages, the white blood cells of the biosphere, of the planet Earth, and this is what I was getting at about the universal mind and how it is not until we understand that we are part of one body, one mind, one will, one being that is self-sustaining and intelligent and not obviously it's not conscious in the way that a human is. We're not looking for this personified deity of the old fable religions. This is kind of a different thing. Real life is more nuanced and subtle than that. And I think that we have obviously created some major imbalances, and that whether COVID was created in a laboratory or not, it is still a mechanism of the universal mind that is attempting to trim the fat and to bring the poisonous, toxin-producing, resource-destroying masses of humanity into a more reasonable, manageable proportion relative to the environment, so that the entire life, the entire biosphere isn't destroyed, which is what will happen. Whenever any organism becomes rampant in any system, they destroy everything. This is not something that is singular to humans. This is something that will happen with any organism. And so I think that the application of medical technology to sustain genetic material, which normally would not survive, so that it can breed and have offspring, is not going to, in the long run, benefit the human race or life in general on this planet. And it may sound coldly objective, but it's just reality. I honestly don't understand how it's so hard for people to understand this. And I guess when you take it on a personal level and you think, well, I can't just let my grandmother die, or, yes, you can. And it's nature and it's life. And I think that it's almost certainly true that we are manifestations of an eternal consciousness. Individual sentient beings are vectors of electromagnetic energy that has condensed into a point. And so matter configures itself around that, and that's what we are as human beings. We are like points of very high density of this electromagnetic energy. And I don't think that we really die. And I think that in cultures where people understand that, in Native American cultures, in indigenous cultures, in Buddhist cultures, death is not something that is mourned in the same way and feared in the same way that it is in our culture. And here's the reality. Facts don't care about your feelings. Nature is going to assert homeostasis, whether that means killing moms and dogs and puppies or not. And our job in mitigating that is to be realistic. Because if our efforts are not in alignment with actual truth, we are going to continue to do more harm than good. It's like what I was saying about voting and protesting. You know, we are down here in the Amazon rainforest, prepared to throw spears at the Chinese miners and blow darts. I mean, the Warani have told them, and the Shuar and others, there's actually been conflict. That, you know, if we catch you out here destroying the jungle, we're going to kill you. And I wanted to mention in my last live stream that I talked a lot about them spearing people and whatnot, kind of casually, and I was laughing about it a lot. And I think I got a thumbs down because it could have been easy to take it the wrong way. And the truth is, these people treasure life more than we do. Trust me. That's not the point. That's why they're throwing the fucking spears. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, and they are very spiritual beings. You know, I really do believe that a lot of the pacifist current in the institutionalized religions is there for a reason, and it's not because it is spiritual to harm no one, no matter what. It's because it keeps you in check, and that's it. You know, here in the Amazon rainforest, you don't cross. What is it called when you put yourself on the ground, prostrate yourself before God? You pray standing up or sitting up. You know, when you drink ayahuasca, the shaman will tell you, you don't lay down. You need to have respect for yourself. You need to act with dignity when you're in a holy state. In the Western mystery tradition, it's the same. Do not approach the altar of the Most High with an impure offering. You know, don't grovel. I mean, the one time that I was in the presence of Great Spirit and I started to grovel, I thought it was going to kill me. Like, it was terrifying. It doesn't like that, you know, in my experience anyway. And I don't recommend the sort of groveling that is promoted in a lot of the mainstream religions. I think if there is a Great Spirit, I'm quite sure that there is. It doesn't like that. Stand up and be proud. But what I was saying, I kind of went off on a side tangent there, is that carrying signs and voting, people just, you know, it's naive. I'm sorry. We've been trying that for 200 years. It's getting worse and worse and worse and worse. If you keep doing the same thing over and over again, regardless of the fact that you're getting not only the same results, but things are getting exponentially worse, and you just continue to try to solve your problems using the same means and methods, you are a hopeless case. And you are doomed. So, you know, for my part, if I catch you in the jungle destroying things, I have no problem. I have no problem feeding you to the trees. I feel a duty and an obligation. You know, I don't want to harm anyone. I want everyone to have a magnificent, wonderful, beautiful life. But the reality is, if you were down here mindlessly destroying, if you were anywhere mindlessly destroying anything, goodbye, you know? In my opinion, it's like a white blood cell eating a virus, speaking of viruses. It's just, we're no longer at a juncture where if you're complicit, you're complacent. That needs to be like a t-shirt. or like, tattoo it on your forehead or something, so that everyone you look at is confronted with this fact that if you're complicit, you're complacent. They're not going to just go away. They aren't. I really think that the situation that we're dealing with is that the entrenched elites would destroy the whole thing before they would give up their control. I think that's extremely obvious. Well, it's good to love your family. It's good to be attached to people. I would be devastated if something happened to one of my family members. But the reality is that unnaturally sustaining populations is going to destroy the whole thing for everyone and everything. And that's worse. And so, when I contemplate these things, I try to imagine what it would be like to be a totally objective consciousness that is trying to sort of not rule but manage a biosphere. And that sort of like human sentimental bleeding heart bullshit is not even going to come into the equation. And to a certain extent, it can't when we are making these decisions. Vice, or what is it? Compassion is a vice for kings. It's, and we have to be able to compartmentalize. Of course, in our culture, our antidote to the matrix mentality is to live with compassion and kindness and fairness and even to contribute to each other, to go out of our way for each other. Sure, absolutely, but we have to be realistic. And I think that the masses are terminally out of touch with reality, and it is going to take a momentous change of consciousness in order to reorient the consciousness of the matrix mindless motherfuckers. It's and it's not exactly that I'm like advocating violent revolution, but I think we need to be realistic here and just be prepared, because I don't feel like that's my role or yours, but it's going to be somebody's. And there are rumors that there are going to be more lockdowns coming. Um, I do think that it's very likely that we have crossed the point of no return in terms of economic and or socioeconomic collapse. And I'm in the jungle where there's food everywhere and the weather never changes. So, I mean, I guess, I'm cool for the moment. But there are less extreme solutions, and I kind of wish I had offered some of that before I went so far off the deep end. But I mean, can you blame me? It's just so frustrating, and I'm inflamed with rage. I guess it's like as my body is starting to wake up and reconnect with the energy around me, I'm just. But something that I consider that we can actually try to take some kind of small steps, baby steps. Our entire culture needs an overhaul from the ground up, and I had the occasion to actually interface with some normies a bit, some of whom I kind of know or knew beforehand, and it really reminded me the extent to which people put on airs and how much of our social interaction is based on illusions and facades. And I have thought since I was a child that even though this is sort of social lubricant that facilitates the machinations of our society so that we can scan each other and go on about our business, and it mostly is there really in order to facilitate capitalism, which really just hit me in this moment, but it's true that this like totally false bullshit social thing that we do is mostly there in order to facilitate the operations of capitalism. And so what happens is that people don't know their own children because um, they have this certain desire that they want to project on their children to varying degrees. Like some people want their child to grow up to do exactly what they did when that I'm a doctor, so my son's going to be a doctor, and it's sick and toxic and horrific because that's not what souls are. That's not what they do. It's not what we're here for. And that in and of itself is enough to cause school shootings and all of this kind of crazy shit that has become normal in our culture. But when I've gone to social gatherings, because I don't do it, I don't do it at all, and I think that it really hurts me because people assume that I am doing it, so I must be like way more, you know what I mean? Like in private, well, if this is how the guy is in public, no, I'm just the same all the time, no matter where I am, I don't care. I'm not going to do it. Like, I don't, lately it's mostly just I don't have the energy for it even. But I had forgotten, it had been so long, I had forgotten the extent until I started to watch someone that I knew in a social setting, and it just really hit home that what is the point of this? Why go out and have tea or consume things? Why do you want to associate with people if you don't actually fucking want to know them? All you're doing is interfacing with a mask that they have created to present to the public. I don't want that. I want to interact with your demons. I want to interact with your faults. I want us to get together and collectively evolve each other. And as long as we get together with a mask on and we hide, there's no reason we should just stay at home. And so when people have this artifice with their own children, for example, they don't realize that their daughter is actually a sexually active heroin addict at 15 because everyone has these fake faces that they put on to interact socially. And I think that one of the first things that we have to do is actually actively try to deconstruct that. I mean, it doesn't necessarily win me a lot of favor, but I call people out on it. Like when I meet people and start interacting with them, if they give me like the social facade and shit, I'll just call them point blank on it because I can see through everything. And I don't know if that's how it is for everyone. A lot of people I think actually do just take everyone at face value, and that's part of the reason that we have serial killers and they manage to operate for 20 years without getting caught. You know. Well, anarchy is not necessarily a bad thing. It just depends on how the anarchy comes to be. I do think that people like Aleister Crowley and Huxley and Timothy Leary and myself and Terence McKenna and I'm leaving tons of people off the list. I'm sure those are the ones that I'm the most familiar with. That realize that there's something that Huxley called the perennial philosophy. There's this thing that all of these highly intelligent people and mystics and people that have taken psychedelics and all of these different people from all these different walks of life have seen this thing, have experienced this gnosis, and the change that it affects upon them is that they are constituted so that they do not need to be governed, and they will not tolerate it. I'm one such person. It's a real thing, and I think that the indigenous cultures throughout the world are proof that it's real. Guess what we don't have here in Hawaii, Ecuador? Cops. You know what else we don't have? Crime. We don't have masks or vaccines or COVID either. But we don't have cops and we don't have crime. Native Americans do not have prisons. It is our culture. It is our everything about it needs to be dissolved and reconfigured. And it's not really that momentous of a task because it's actually paper thin and everyone hates it. They may not realize it, but they hate it. Everyone wants to be authentic. Everyone wants to have freedom of self-expression. Everyone wants to live according to their highest potential. Everyone wants to live in accordance with their true will. Everyone has all of those things. Our society is not structured to prioritize all of those things in the individual constituent denizens of said society. And so we have what we have. Truth is self-substantiating, and the truth in our culture is that it is so fucked up and toxic that it is destroying itself from within. It is eating itself alive. Yeah, it's extremely unnatural, you know, and we do have an antidote. It's true. I mean, it's scary that I feel like I have to be careful what I say, because that's one of the reasons that I'm increasingly not interested in social media and doing the YouTube. I mean, I know that these live streams mean a lot to you guys. You guys have kept me alive for the last couple of years. But it can be so damaging and so toxic. I mean, the other day I was doing a stream and it was a really important subject, and I was really intending to use it as like a fundraiser for our Warrani trip, which, by the way, we really still need to raise a lot of money for my health and my son's paperwork and everything. So if you're in a position to, please do support us. There's links in the description and in the chat. And by the way, I did find 2 solid dev teams in the crypto universe now, guaranteed whitelist at every launch. Pretty sure that our financial problems are going to be very short-lived. So that was a really good development. I'm really excited about that. But we do still need support. Really need support. Sharing the videos too, you know, is helpful. But what I was saying is that I did the first, well, I haven't done the second one, the Warrani live stream, and at one point you'll notice if you watch it that I just kind of stopped talking and I'm just staring off into space. And Fernando, I know you said that it was just that people were something like YouTube dumps and then they come back on or something, but that's not all, you know, and it happens a lot. People come on, they see me, and they leave. Like I look like too much of a hillbilly or something. Yeah, you know, I think there's something weird with that token too. That may have been a false alarm. If you try to sell it, it says transaction fee 99% or something. So I don't know what's up with that. But what I was talking about is the toxicity of social media, because I am I'm like the not giving a fuck what people think goat, you know, like I have thick skin, and I mean, I don't really care what I look like very much. I honestly thought that was something people got over when they were like 14 or something. I didn't even realize that you were supposed to still do that at 40 or whatever. You know, I mean, I'm not that sensitive. I don't care. I'm used to being an outcast. It's like just how things are. But I posted a video where I showed my face for the first time on TikTok, and there were hundreds of people that liked a comment about how I looked like my parents were cousins. And there were only a couple of comments, and that one was like, and after that I started watching this number I noticed, and when people would come on and then disappear, I would like, it started to upset me, you know. And so it really hit me what social media is doing to like 14-year-old girls. Because, you know, I mean, for a while I was really trying to use TikTok as well, not as a tool to get my message out there, but purely for sponsorships and influencer promotions, because we had that one viral video. I was trying to take advantage of it, and I was looking at a lot of TikToks, and I see these like young girls, and people are fucking terrible to them. And I didn't really think that much about it until it like happened to me and actually fucked me up for a week. You know, so I mean, when it comes to the like levels of toxicity in our culture now, it is like strata upon strata. It is really difficult to transcend, and the difficulty in communication. I have trouble finding a solution when I can offer video proof of something that should concern whatever demographic very, very deeply. And they're going to not only not acknowledge that evidence, but attack me, write me off, and then they're going to preemptively cancel anything like me that is in their periphery in order to avoid disruption of their reality tunnel, which is what this is really about. People build these reality tunnels, these belief systems that they're comfortable habitating, and when something threatens that, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that what I told you guys about what Kamala Harris and Biden said about not wanting to get the vaccination because Trump was pushing it, while the Democrats were screaming about how he was playing with people's lives with COVID. The fact that they could do that is like, your fucking head should explode. And if you're one of the people that actually participated in that level of cognitive dissonance, you really need to, like, you owe it to humanity to examine yourself and examine your thought processes, because this has gone way too fucking far. And then, okay, so the censorship, this is some shit. Facebook has started actually labeling fact checks on information that contains like the name or some bit of information that is also found in posts that contain actual misinformation, even if the post doesn't contain any misinformation. You understand what I'm saying? So this particular example, I think I started to talk about it earlier, and I went off on some side tangent. But this Jean-Luc the French virologist, Nobel Prize winner, real science, totally credible, probably the top guy in his field in the entire century, right? He's saying this stuff. And so I posted about it, saying that, look, and not only that, but there's a totally separate experiment in the chicken industry that showed that if you vaccinate all the chickens, that the viruses would accelerate their mutations, and they would also vary more, and the mutations were more deadly. And they said that for the chicken industry, it could actually be a good thing because it would eventually make like better resistance, but at the cost of like tremendous death, and it has to do with their ability to hybridize the chicken and pump them full of antibiotics, and so it's different than a human population. So this is not fringe science. This is Nobel Prize winning virologist, like on record for sure. No one's making it up. And this, you guys have to listen to me right now, okay? This is really important, and you have to tell anyone that will listen to look at this, because it proves what I'm saying. Absolutely. When I posted that this virologist had said that mass vaccination was the greatest medical error in human history, Facebook labeled it false. When I clicked to find out why, it said this information is false. This French Nobel Prize winning virologist did not say that everyone that receives the vaccine will die. Excuse me? Who the fuck said that? It's not in the post. There's not anything related to that. There's not, it doesn't like imply it. It doesn't allude to it. Here's the thing. They can't put a real fact check on it and call it false because it isn't false. And so they are actively interceding between the acquisition of relevant and important information because of some prejudice that has nothing to do with truth or the well-being of the constituents, their consumers. So that, no matter what your stance on vaccines, no matter what you think about any fucking thing, that should scare the fucking piss out of you, and it should make you fucking angry, because that is crazy. If you post information that Facebook does not want the viewers to read, they will label it as false, even if it doesn't contain the information that they're claiming is false at all. Like in this case, it wasn't even alluded to. Like it literally just wasn't there at all. Period. Not there. So, but wait, it gets worse. Another thing that's come to light in the last couple of weeks is that Cornell University and Purdue, I think, don't quote me on the last one, definitely Cornell, have written papers about Facebook's emotional experiments on the emotions of their... Yeah, I know. I don't know why, man. I'm sorry. I think it's just our internet. I think our... Because... Oh, wait. No, it's my phone. Yeah, it's just the internet. There's nothing I can do about it. That's maybe why so many people have been dialing off. That's too bad. Sounds like there's a fan running. Oh no, it's a river. I'm outside. I'm in the Amazon rainforest on a deck. I mean, there's just not much I can do about that. I don't know if it's because the sound quality is being degraded by the internet. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna start. The problem is there is no way home after like 8 o'clock from town, and I would like to do these from the restaurant where there's good internet and it's nice and quiet. But no, I'm not in Iquitos. I'm in Hawaii, Ecuador. You guys should come see me if you want. We have an extra room. There's ayahuasca growing in the backyard. It's amazing, man. Every day I just see something new that is just mind-blowing. And people that are here, you know, like taxis come to get us, to take us everywhere. Water taxi, canoes, canoas. And they're like really long, like the traditional Quechua style boat taxis. I don't know. And so, you know, we're going everywhere in boats, and everyone is just like so wide-eyed and like smiling and happy all the time because it's the fucking Amazon rainforest, and it's just, there's just mind-blowing stuff everywhere, and you can eat everything. I mean, it really is paradise. And you know, I mean, I think a lot of people might have been turned off and like phased me out when I was saying like we're ready to kill the Chinese miners, you know, the Warani. Like, if they are defending their land, I will help them. You know, if we're staying in the village, I will help them. I will fight with them for sure, like without hesitation. You know, I don't think there's any honor in being a soldier and fighting for corporations to make profits, because at this point in human history, that is all that is. You are killing people for profit. That's it. For college money. For your own college money and for profit for corporations. But if you're defending the Amazon rainforest against people that are just destroying... I mean, and look, you want to talk about being on the front line for the good of humanity, support the Warani. If you want to support soldiers, or me for that matter, you know, down here trying to help them. You know what I mean? Bring money into the communities and raise awareness and stuff. Because we are putting our lives on the line for everyone. If they destroy this rainforest, all of our fucking asses are gone. So, yeah, Peru's great too. You know, Ecuador's different. We're going deeper soon. We are on sort of like the frontier of the Amazon here. There are monkeys and uh, you know, occasional toucans and stuff, but it's not quite as wild as it can be. And so, in case you're new to the channel or you're just dialing in, we've actually been invited by the Warani, who are one of the more recently contacted of the major tribes here. There are still two uncontacted branches that will just spear you on sight if they see outsiders in their land, which they're totally entitled to, not criticizing. Uh, and they're just starting to open their borders up to outsiders, and it sounds like we're going to be among the few outsiders who have learned the language. They offered to teach us Warani. They said it's very easy, and listening to it, I don't believe them at all. The mosquitoes aren't bad, but there are sandflies and little black flies that are bad. I wear socks all the time. I wear lawn pants all the time. It's not so bad that you really have to cover your arms up right now. Nothing is biting me after the door is open. Um, it's because normally there are a lot of mosquitoes in this part of the Amazon, but it's because of some type of fish that eats all of the little larvae of the mosquitoes. So like I'll see like one a week or something. Seriously, there are no mosquitoes. But the little tiny sandflies are kind of bad. And the caterpillars actually are the most dangerous thing. There's one here that'll kill you apparently. So you can't touch it or you're dead in 15 minutes and there's no antidote. And all the rest of them will sting the shit out of you. Except for that one on the thumbnail. Did you guys see that thing? Man, that fucking thing was crazy. So beautiful and dark and sinister looking, you know? And that's something I wanted to talk about, the universal mind, and how it proves that it's a thing. Oh god, there's just so much, you know? I feel like the equator, you know, like, you know how like when light hits a crystal and it refracts, there's like a point where the density is the greatest and the fractures are the most, and the perimeter, I guess, I don't know how to explain it. The way that think of the Earth as a crystal, and the equator is the outermost point. So it's the closest to the light, and it's refracting with the greatest density in this band that has the most color, the most diversity, and also the most stability. You know, the trees here, a lot of them have evolved since the Precambrian age or whatever. There are fish in the rivers that have been there the same for 500 million years or whatever. There's a video of us eating like this dinosaur fish that's actually still got plates that probably would be impervious to a 22 caliber pistol. I mean, it's insane. And I think that you can think of it the same way. That was just kind of a random thought that I has nothing to do with the rest of it, which was that one of the things about this universal mind and the way that it sort of reveals itself for those who have eyes to see and ears to hear, right? Or like the Kabbalion said that the lips of wisdom are closed, but to the ears of understanding. When you look around here and you encounter a foot-long stick insect or these caterpillars, there are more caterpillars in Ecuador than anywhere else, more species than anywhere else in the world. And like every day I see one that I just can't believe I'm looking at it. And it's constant, you know, I mean, there's just so many things. And they all have this certain aesthetic. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that ayahuasca brings the jungle to you no matter where you drink it. Because I never drank ayahuasca in the jungle for the first 11, 12 ceremonies that I participated in were in the mountains. I had never been to the Amazon rainforest. And the creatures here and the plants here are of that spirit. And if you have seen both, you know what I'm talking about. And it's sort of also the same is true of peyote, that the desert pests pastels and um, the geometries and the personality is present in the experience. Um, as I always say, the truth is self-substantiating, and it's just a shame that it is really only a minute adjustment in the conscious awareness of individuals that will mean ultimately the salvation or damnation of the entire human race. It's funny, we talk about saving the planet, um, but that's totally stupid, really. I mean, the people that have the attitude we may as well just destroy everything and take all the resources, they're kind of right. Because if we do that, we're going to die. And some species will suffer and stuff, it's true. But the planet will rejuvenate itself relatively quickly in terms of like the grand cosmic scale of things. The only people that are really suffering from our ignorance and malignance and confusion and maladaptation, maladaptation is us. The planet will be fine. Um, you know, my fear for myself is that the Amazon rainforest will be destroyed and we'll still be alive for a while. Because those are going to be some bad fucking years, for one thing. And for another thing, it's amazing here. Uh, as I said in the last live stream, you know, the Warani, the Shipibo, the Shuar, Vivaro peoples, the Kofan, all of these people that have given us these amazing medicinal plants that can heal our bodies and heal our minds and heal our civilization and save us from the gaping jaws of the abyss that await at the base of this precarious precipice that we are perched upon, awaiting the tiniest breeze, the wings that they have offered us, so that, you know, we can choose not only not to fall into those gaping jaws, but to ascend into higher realms without leaving the planet. The least we can do while they're saving us is not destroy them. And so far, that's not going well. I hear it every day. Walking down the street, I can hear the rumbling of the machines and the earth being dumped and sorted. So I guess, you know, I should wrap it up. I've used way too much data. This has gone way too long. Really. And I don't even know that I said what I set out to say tonight. I mean, I'm sounding an alarm. I'm trying to. And I'm trying to make it clear that it's time to snap out of the naive delusions that people have created as a coping mechanism. Because they're creating a terminal state of delusion, and we have to be more proactive in advocating psychedelics. Oh, one of the things I wanted to talk about is we got to watch out with this too. What's happening with psychedelics is that people are, because liberals are so goddamn naive about the system, everyone thinks it's just great and swell and wonderful that things are being legalized and pharmaceutical companies are taking control of the distribution and even the chemical constitution of the sacraments that we that are our really only lifeline at this point, in my opinion. But what is happening is that in the 60s, and this radical revolutionary spirit, man, I feel like I'm one of the few people that still has that. People hate it now. Like, I thought that there was this, in the early 2000s, and this makes me really sad, there was a really strong movement of people that were like ready to burn down Babylon, I thought. And it seems like they have all just been like slurped up into the matrix or something and pacified. If you're complicit, you're complacent, in my opinion. And I don't see the real radical revolutionary contingent that we need to have my back, to have our backs. But anyways, psychedelics were supposed to be there to dissolve the mind-forged manacles of culture and the matrix prison, and to free us from that. And what is happening is that they are being insidiously transformed into a tool to, sure, heal your trauma and to, provide some interesting experiences, but to also just to make people more like to conform and to be like model citizen type. You know what I mean? Like they can be abused in that way, especially LSD. I think I've always been an advocate of LSD, but the thing is with ayahuasca and mushrooms and these plant-based psychedelics, they will connect you to a greater mind that is not really as conducive to just being used to imprint whatever on a mind, you know? And LSD is more neutral. And I think that these psilocybin analogs and stuff that are being developed by pharmaceutical companies can also just be used as conditioning agents. And this is what a lot of the right-wing conspiracy theorists have been warning about psychedelics for a long time, that I eventually, finally have to admit that to some extent they are correct. That if we're not careful, they will just become, a substitute for SSRIs and Prozac, and probably a better substitute, but still, at the end of the day, with the same function, which is just to create more uniform, homogeneous, well-balanced, you know what I mean, matrix fucking mannequins or whatever. So we need to watch out for that, because, and this is another thing, this is what shamans are for, to an extent. So hopefully we have enough guides and people. I am kind of worried about that psychedelics are going to get hijacked by the corporate entities, and they're going to be used against us, just like everything else. Look, when marijuana started to get legalized on the West Coast, I was part of like the outlaw grower, that world, and everyone, all the liberals and a lot of the conservatives even were like, "Yay, they're legalizing marijuana, we're more free," and I was like, "Oh, fuck me," because I knew that what they're actually doing is getting control of all the mom and pop grows, all of the anarchists, all of the totally independent people. They're taking their freedom, they're crushing them, and that's what happened. They destroyed all the mom and pop farms. Monsanto came in and bought Humboldt and Mendocino County, and all of a sudden you had to have millions and millions of dollars to legally grow marijuana, or otherwise you were out of a job, your farm is gone, your people were turning to selling cocaine and hard drugs. It was the worst thing that could have possibly happened to millions and millions of people. They were like the most free, beautiful, artistic, like the last bastion of the real America was completely destroyed by the legalization of marijuana. So, I really don't think that mainstream acceptance is I'd have to see the McKenna lecture. I'm not really suspicious of him, but I would like to say that even though I have criticized him because he lied to us. He definitely lied to us. He manipulated his numbers with the novelty theory that he had, and I don't think he was wrong, which is the really sad part. He should have just been honest and said, "I can't prove this, but doesn't this intuitively feel correct or something?" Rather than fudging his equations so that they work, and then getting busted by a mathematician later on down the road. I think he was actually banking on the idea that no one would check, no one would take him seriously. He thought that psychedelics were still so fringe that no one from the mainstream would actually say, okay, let's look at your mathematics. And he also knew that none of his constituency would have the capacity to do it themselves. So he did manipulate his fan base and lie to them. And but the way that I think about it is that I don't hate Terence McKenna over it. I don't judge him for it. It was a very powerful lesson to me to have someone that I idolized for so long. Terence McKenna was actually the first person that I exchanged emails with. It's a true story. The first time I ever used email, I wanted to go to something he was doing in Mexico, and my friend said, "Why don't you email him?" And I didn't know what email was, and so he took me into his study and sent Terence an email, and he actually answered me, which was crazy. I think I was like 17, so probably like 1996. But what I was saying is that it taught me a very valuable lesson to watch myself and to monitor my own motivations and to make sure that in my own seekings and, if I'm going to speak, I need to know my song well before I start singing. My own metaphysical musings, that you have to watch out for falling in love with your own ideas. And I think that's what happened. He was so determined that he should be correct. It became more important to prove it than whether it was actually true or not. And I think a lot of people fall prey to that, and I think we fall prey to that in our own heads much more than mostly in our own, our own belief systems, our own reality tunnels. We will. That's what selective perception and cognitive dissonance are for. They're coping mechanisms that are enabling us to do what Terence McKenna was doing when he fudged mathematics and tricked everyone. Which is insane to think that Terence was actually knowingly deceiving us all behind these speeches, but it's absolutely true. You can read the paper. It's called Autopsy of a Mathematical Theory. Terence lived to see this too. He knew that it had happened, that he had been exposed right before he died. So, and I've noticed that in the Terence McKenna communities now, no one mentions novelty theory. There are hardly any talks about it on YouTube. It's just gone. It's like everyone's like, whoops, better just kind of ignore that, So, yeah. But yeah, we have to watch out for that. Babylon, look, like, I don't care. I've gotten some flack from, no, I don't think he was CIA. I don't think he was CIA. Tim Leary wasn't CIA either. What happened with Timothy Leary is that, look, if Timothy Leary was a CIA agent, watch my video on Timothy Leary. Look at the shit he was saying. If you think the CIA would pay somebody to talk like that, then we need to put the CIA in charge of the world if they're not already. You know what I mean? Like, if that's what they're doing, if they're hiring people like Timothy Leary and telling them to talk like that, then we need more CIA power. Like, give them total control. I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous. What actually happened is that Timothy Leary he escaped from prison. Nixon was calling him the most dangerous man in the world. And so they hunted him down in Africa. They sent him back to the United States. He was sitting in prison for 3 years. Timothy Leary was one of the highest IQs ever tested. And so he was also super psychedelic galactic mind psychologist. Like, can you imagine him with the 1970s cops? He just chewed them up and spit them out. So he basically pretended to inform. And this is where the conspiracy theories have grown. He did give the police a bunch of information that got him released from prison. He totally admitted that. But there was not one arrest made with the information that he gave to the police. It was all totally useless. They were real people, but none of it was true. And none of it was prosecuted. He just toyed with them to get himself out of prison. And that eventually grew into this rumor that Timothy Leary was a CIA agent. It's completely absurd. He was not a central intelligence agent, like real central intelligence, like universal mind. The guy was a prophet. If there's any such thing as a prophet, Tim Leary was a prophet, for sure. I mean, sometimes he wasn't on point, and his stuff could be kind of rambly, just like me or anyone else, you know. But Tim Leary is one of my fucking heroes, and I don't think any of us would have anything like the freedom or the level of consciousness that we know or the awareness of psychedelics or any of it if Timothy Leary hadn't been Timothy Leary. So it is actually, you know, it's one of the most infuriating things to me when people throw him under the bus, because I really do think that Timothy Leary went to prison for the freedom of our consciousness. You know, John Lennon didn't do that. John Lennon, in my opinion, was a total fraud. You know, you cannot find another people's hero that actually went to prison in the interest of our consciousness's liberation. And Timothy Leary did. Like, tell me another. You know, there aren't any. So I absolutely think that it's an absolute travesty that Tim Leary has this like that people look down on him and think that he was a traitor and all this. When in reality, he is the reason why there's a counterculture. He is the reason why there's a resistance. He is the reason why we know what LSD is. You know, they would have been able to keep it all quiet, and it never would have escaped the laboratory, as they say. You know, if I was going to be suspicious of anybody, honestly, I mean, it would be the people that were telling Leary to keep quiet, which was everybody else around him. So I gotta go, man. But please do support us on Patreon, PayPal. We need to raise, I think, about $500 more before I'm comfortable to go in and stay with the Warani to pay for the supplies that we need and pay the community. We have to contribute something to the community. We don't have to, but it's just we're going to. So we're really trying to make that happen, and we're doing it for good reason. You know, I'm going to go in there. We're trying to, you know, I don't want to call it a documentary because obviously I'm an amateur. I'm not a filmmaker, really. But I'm going to interview the shamans. I think it's an extraordinary opportunity for me to drink ayahuasca with a shaman who's basically uncontacted. One of the biggest problems with the ayahuasca industry is that the shamans have all been influenced by like the New Age movement. The ayahuasca industry is full of nonsense. There are things about the dieta that are just made up. There's all kinds of bullshit everywhere. And I have literally watched with my own eyes good shaman that I will no longer drink with because the power to conform to fake protocol because it's what tourists expect of them has completely destroyed traditions, right? And there are all these ayahuasca snobs that if you don't do what they're expecting, they think you're a fake shaman, and then their attitude is bad, which affects the entire circle throughout the ceremony. And in reality, they just don't know what the fuck they're talking about. It's terrible to watch. Like, it's why I hate commercial ayahuasca. It's terrible, and it's destroying everything in terms of like traditional practice. So this is an opportunity for me to actually go and drink with a shaman who has, you know, this particular group of Warani. Only the women ever come to town, and they only started coming to town. They saw a toilet for the first time 15 years ago. They went into a store for the first time 15 years ago. So it's an incredible and unique opportunity for me to work with a shaman that has no contact with the civilized world. To continue my healing, you know, I've gotten a lot better, but I'm certainly not entirely where I need to be. And also for us to help to document how they live and why they're such a treasure, why the Amazon rainforest is such a treasure, and try to raise awareness to compel people to help us to protect it all. So please make a contribution if you can. There's the PayPal and Zelle addresses and the Binance Smart Chain. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. You guys have really helped, some of you, for me to survive and to improve my health. And, you know, we have a long way to go, but we have made it a really, really, we've made it very, very far against a lot of very difficult circumstances. And a lot of the people in this community are to thank for that. And we definitely appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. And if we're able to have the impact that I'm hoping that we can, like I said, you know, I'm going to start another channel just because I want to be able to isolate my political shit and my crazy rants and profanity and all of this stuff. You know, I mean, I'm gonna put my hair in like a man bun and you know, never use profanity. And I mean, I'm not saying it's gonna be totally sold out. That's not what I'm saying. But I mean, keep it very family friendly, clean, no controversy, no politics, just rainforest, plant medicine, you know, hermeticism, psychology. Like, you know, I was originally intending to do all that with this channel, and it kind of just went down this rabbit hole of occult and shamanism and plant medicine and all these crazy stories from my life. And what I actually want to do with the other channel is really start talking about advancements in the areas of psychology and physics and also the occult and hermeticism, but without all the crazy political alienating stuff. And that way, I'm hoping I can build a larger audience, create a more stable platform, and more revenue, because you know I am among those people that can be trusted to actually use the money to benefit people. That's all we're trying to do here. You know, I want to create a situation where I'm able to, you know, not have to be a slave and survive and funnel a shit ton of money into things that actually matter, like conserving indigenous cultures, conserving the Amazon rainforest, and changing the culture in the United States. Yeah, man, the one-on-one Patreon thing is definitely still an option. You can just send me an email, and we can just do it on Zoom or whatever. That way you don't have to pay it through Patreon because they take a lot of fees. Uh, but that's, you know, like I said, we're trying to raise another 500 bucks, and then I am out of excuses. We have been invited by the Warani, which is crazy, you guys. I'm not kidding you. How long have I been talking about this, right? The other day, when we saw them, we did not approach them. One of the women gestured for us to come over and talk to them, which has never happened before. They're nice people. I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but they're not very approachable. They look very stern and severe and serious. They're holding spears, for fuck's sake. You know what I mean? Like, and they have this reputation, you know. So they're not like, you know, hi, come say hello. Usually, it's not like that, you know. And on this occasion, one of them was like, hey, come here. And then we did, and she said nothing. And so I was like, can we come to your village? And they're like, oh, yeah, you can come and stay in our sister's hut. And, you know, she came over, and I was like, what? Because that's not how it is traditionally, you know. They don't really interact with, well, thank you for thank you for making me feel less crazy, man. I can't fucking believe it sometimes, you know. I it's so hard for me not to get angry too, because I'm like, this stuff, I'm not like a genius, I don't think. This isn't that difficult. It's not that crazy. This is all I feel like I'm really doing is pointing out the obvious to people that have been severely indoctrinated and brainwashed and drugged from the time that they were born, you know? So it's just crazy to me that I have to even do this at all. And it's also really frustrating that there's so much resistance, because I'm trying to help. You know, and the thing is, like, if people would just stop shutting it out, they would discover that there is this, like, there's so much more for them to experience. That's really the only difference. That's the only thing we're trying to accomplish. Is that if you transcend this matrix mind, the parameters of what is available for you to experience are expanded. And then your life is more fulfilling. And if your life is more fulfilling, you're going to be less of an asshole. And you're going to value your life and the thing that sustains it more. And so there's this cyclical, reciprocating, symbiotic synergy that happens that empowers the whole thing, and everyone lives happily ever after and doesn't destroy the fucking Amazon rainforest. You know what I mean? And everything else. So, you know, and then I don't really want to go out and blow darts at Chinese people in the jungle. I don't want to have to do that, but I fucking will. You know, and it was crazy the other day. The Warani were actually selling the blowguns in the town. I'd never seen that before. They're always there. Not always. They're there sometimes selling like this. I don't know if you guys can see. I don't know where the camera is. This bracelet. Yeah, that was terrible. This thing with the seeds, and the string is made from plants from the jungle, but they had the things that they hunt with, and they're selling them. I'm sure without the poison darts. I did find one of the poison dart frogs in the yard the other day. That was awesome. I just saw something hopping and I picked it up and I realized like, holy shit, that's one of those basement road dark things. Um, but yeah, I mean, you guys, we gotta change the world or we're all gonna fucking die. You know, I mean, let's stop like dicking around. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reason to sugarcoat anything at this point. It's not possible. Uh, we have to expand our consciousness. We have to convince other people that it's a real thing and that they need to do it, or they're just not. You know, it's just no good. Don't let anybody shoot you, inject you, anything. Either, I think would be wise. That's sage advice. And if you do have to die for the collective well-good, because you're genetically weak and viruses are created by nature in order to thin the herd, you'll be back in another form. Don't worry, death is just a change of clothes, and who cares anyways, you know? And I think that's another reason why we need to evolve. Like, these decisions made out of fear, like accepting a vaccine, are always wrong. If the decision is made out of fear, it's always wrong. Decisions made out of love, right? Fear, wrong. Simple. Simple, simple, simple. So, thank you guys so much for watching and supporting, and I'll see you again soon.